What is up, Buffalo
Finale?
Z-Bot, Rico. It's Rico in Bot on the AFC Championship pregame show, where the Buffalo Bills are just over a half an hour away from taking on the Kansas City Chiefs for a right to take on the Philadelphia Eagles in Super Bowl 59. Rico, the moment is almost here. How are you feeling, baby?
I'm feeling good. Ladies and gentlemen, for those that are tuned in, smash that like. Let us know where you're representing. Throw your area code in the chat. Let's see where you're coming from. Are you coming from overseas? Are you coming from Western New York? Where are my Canadians at? Are y'all in here? Yo, hit that bell. Smash that like. Sub if you haven't. We are ready to go for championship weekend. But you're in Rochester.
Yep.
The folks are upstairs. You're ready to roll. Is your confidence as high as it was last week against the Baltimore Ravens? Talk to me.
This time of the week, last week, right? The exact same time slot, exact same day. So literally a week ago at this very moment, I was far more nervous. I'm sure as soon as this Philly game ends and I start to watch a little bit of the pregame theatrics, and then we get into the, down on the field as Tracy Wolfson and we're going to the kickoff, then I'm really going to start to feel it. But I will say at this point last week, I was far more nervous. I'm more locked in right now. I'm more ready. I'm more amped because we know this is what it was always going to come down to. And I had felt last week based on the matchup, it just wasn't the best situation for Buffalo. The Bills have been better against KC than anybody. Doesn't mean they win, doesn't mean they lose. But I love the chances they have today. I think it's going to be a great game. And I think if they've ever had a chance to do it, this time around seems like the best one.
I totally agree, man. It's like it's one of those things where it's like it's time. It's just time. It's like there's no more talking. There's no more wondering. You know what needs to get done. Nobody has to sit here and try to pump you up. Y'all should have been pumped the minute 000s hit on that Baltimore game. We on a KC.
Yeah.
And it's like it comes to a point where coaches have coached all they can. Now it's time for the players to execute. That's it, right? And then you get your mid-game adjustments and your roll. We just got to punch first. We've got to. And this is the game. This is it. The storylines are everywhere. Pick your storyline that you want to hook onto and go from there. But we got to get the job done. At the end of the day, that's what it's got to happen.
Yeah, and you got to do the opposite of what the Commanders did this afternoon, and that's not turn the ball over. I mean, you have got to protect the football. The Washington Commanders had 3 fumbles in this football game, and it was ultimately the difference. I mean, Philly put on a great game here. They have 41 points right now. I mean, just to go to show you how crazy that is, the over-under for this game was 47. They have 41, so no one really expected them to put the amount of points up that they did. But every time the Commanders had an opportunity to kind of close the window or the gap, rather, they fumbled the ball away. They have 3 fumbles, and when you have a rookie quarterback and you have a team that's not as good as the opposing team, you cannot afford to fumble the football. Yep. Now, in this situation, Rico, both these teams, I would argue there isn't one that's better than the other, really, at this point. That's even more reason to not being able to turn the ball over, because the margin of error is this thin. And 3 turnovers, you're screwed. Ask the Baltimore Ravens from last week. That was the difference. I think 1 turnover in this game, Rico, you could be screwed. That, to me, is one of the biggest elements of the football game. 2 teams in Kansas City and Buffalo that are better than anybody in the league at protecting the ball. Who's going to be the one that protects it better? Who's going to be the one that slips up? I think that could be a huge element of the game.
Absolutely. It is a huge element of the game. Also, we're going to talk about huge elements of the game. The inactive list is out. It has been out for about an hour now. Let's go through it. So, folks, here's what we're looking at right now. What we see is Taylor Rapp. Obviously, we've known that for the betterment of the week, that he will be out, nursing that hip injury. He's out. Mike White. Brandon Codrington out again. So we will see. That one was a weird one for me. I thought that for sure he would have been ready, but I think this decision here would have been more likely. I think we're going to go with the hot hand. We're going to leave Khalil Shakir. He seems to be making plays. I don't know how that works out, but Brandon Codrington out, Van Pran-Granger out, Quentin Jefferson, Ryan Vandermark, and Dwayne Carter. Nothing that we haven't seen before. But what the great news is we have our guy Christian Benford back in the building. He will be alongside Rasul Douglas starting at the corner position, but everything else is a go. Ed, DeQuan, Jordan Phillips, Austin Johnson at your defensive tackles. Obviously, you have your Von Miller, Greg Rousseau, Javon Solomon. I love that pickup right there. AJ Epinesa and Dwayne Smoot. And nothing else changed, guys. It's just what it's going to be. Your quick thoughts on Benford being active and ready to go. There was a bit of a worry that maybe, just maybe, he would make it.
No, that's absolutely huge, especially with the wrap out. You just felt like you couldn't afford to have him out as well. And then I just factor in what it could have been this week, like we talked about last week, what the injury report could have looked like based on who was banged up at the time compared to what it's looking like now, compared to what it was looking like this time last year. It's as healthy as they've been. It mattered last week. I think it matters this week. You know, we're seeing the highlights from this game a season ago, but in the divisional, and you're noticing why Travis Kelce's so wide open. You're noticing why the back end is so wide open. They have their B squad out there, and it wound up costing them in many key areas. This time around, Rico, there's no excuse. And that's all we want. Win or lose, we don't want any excuses. I don't want to leave this game saying, well, if this and if that. Mm-hmm. Maybe that happens on the field, but it won't happen personnel-wise. The Bills have what it takes right now from a personnel standpoint to be set up as best as they have been against these Chiefs in the postseason.
You're absolutely right. And you said something earlier today and keys to victory and what's happening right now while you're watching Philly and Commanders play. It's everybody settle down and just protect the football. And right now, Commanders aren't protecting the football. If they're not giving them, and this is the if part you said, there can't be an if. What if? And if this, listen, don't leave the ifs on the field. And right now, the Commanders are leaving a whole bunch of ifs on the field. And right now, Philly's running away with this game. Now, unless theatrics happen and all of a sudden there's a game, I can't see it happening. That team's way too good to give the football up and go from there. Now, back to the Bills and what it's going to take for us to get down. By the way, we got my man Pierre that's going to be getting ready soon. We'll be giving up the mic to my man Pierre, but we got to talk about keys to this game. What it's gonna take, and we're gonna start with 17. 17. Josh Allen. He knows what's at stake. Oh, listen, 4-1 regular season. That's all great and dandy. 0-3 versus these Chiefs in the playoffs. What's it going to take from 17 today? Does he have to change anything? Does he have to bust out the Superman suit early? How do you see this playing out for 17, how to start this game? Because he's the most important piece for this offense.
So I was listening to Nick Wright a little bit about this game because obviously he's a massive Chiefs fan, and he's been far less critical of Buffalo than he has been in the past, and he's actually given Buffalo a ton of love, and deservingly so. That's why I like Nick. I know he gets a lot of flack, but I think he's more transparent than meets the eye, and he has certainly been that way with the Bills as of late. And I'm watching his thoughts on this game, and he had made a good point that I kind of hadn't really thought about. And it felt like last year in this game, Allen was a bit conservative based on what we expect him to be typically. He just felt like he was a little bit conservative, and he had said that going into this game that he feels like he might be due for a turnover because of how great he's been throughout the year here. Now, I don't know if I see that just because he's been terrific at not turning the ball over. And you think you can make the same argument about Mahomes. You could say he's due for a turnover too. I think it goes both ways, but I went back to the conservative aspect of things. It does feel like this is a type of game where you don't want to hurt yourself so much so that you end up hurting yourself. That's what I want to see from Allen. I don't want to see it get to the point where, like the second half last week, Rico, against the Ravens is the perfect example. They were just trying not to harm themselves. And because of that, they did not convert. They did not move the sticks, rather. They did not put points on the board. And that really opened the door for the Baltimore Ravens. They didn't keep their foot on the gas. And they kind of went with a more conservative approach that was really reminiscent of trying to not lose the football game as opposed to trying to go and win the football game. The Bills have to go and try and win the football game in those moments today. So from 17, I want to see the urgency to get out ahead of these guys and then keep that lead should they get it, as opposed to kind of leaving the door open. Because if you're going to leave the door open for KC, 99 out of 100 times, they're going to walk right through it. So no conservativeness today. Now, that doesn't mean not be smart. There's a difference between the two. Being conservative doesn't mean being overly smart to the point where you don't make a mistake or whatever. Like you can be smart and you can not be overly conservative at the same time. You still want the smart plays from Josh Allen, but when the big play is there, or when the opportunity is to kind of flip the game is there, Allen taking advantage of it, I think, could be a big key in this game. So I'm looking out for that in 17.
Listen, you hit on 17. I'm going to hit somewhere else. I'm going to jump on the defense side of the ball. It is a nice feeling to have a healthier defense, a more experienced defensive front, and on the sideline, meaning the corners. But more importantly, you get our guy, Terrell Bernard returns. This is going to be the first time he gets to face these very same Chiefs in the playoffs. Guess what? He's joined by a Matt Milano, much healthier Matt Milano, or more, a savvy Matt Milano coming through. So the linebacking core is going to be super important in this game. Why? Because their leading guy, their leading actor, if you will, the lead role is Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is going to be the guy that tries to open things up for this offense for the Kansas City Chiefs. And once he does, everything else opens up. If we can shut that down and have these other guys show up, and if they do, so be it. But we got to take the main player away, and that is Mr. Kelce, because too often we saw Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews getting open and wide open right in the middle of that defense, and it was concerning to us. So if we handle ourselves and we handle these guys with our pieces that are there and healthy, I think big things happen. The defensive front's going to be great, but it's nice to have our linebacking crew intact, ready to go, and ready to rock. So I'm excited about what we have on defense.
Yeah, I'm excited too, especially when you factor in, Rico, that the Chiefs have scored 22-ish points per game this year. I mean, we're going against a Ravens team last week. These Bills are. That is averaging around 30. And they had 10 at half, and they had 19 all the way to the 2-minute warning of the fourth quarter. That was a way more potent offense than the Chiefs last week, unarguably. Yes. Not saying the Ravens are better. I would never be that foolish to say that. But their offense was this year. I mean, that's just the way it was. And the Bills' defense stepped up. The last 2 weeks, I mean, really, Rico, other than the opening drive for Denver, this Bills defense has been standing on their head. And we thought going into this postseason that the ultimate difference maker, because we knew what the offense was going to give us, but we thought the ultimate difference maker could be an improvement from the defense, or at least playing the style of D they've shown this year where they don't harm the offense's ability to put the game away. And that means forcing turnovers, stopping them on fourth down, keeping them out of the end zone, forcing them to field goals, right? They've done that the last 2 weeks. Kept Denver out of the end zone. They kept Baltimore out of the end zone for 3 quarters for the most part, forced 3 turnovers. This is another game here where you could argue that the Bills' defense and their impact on the game might be more pivotal than that of the offense. We know what we're going to get from this Bills offense. They were the first team to score 30 against this Kansas City Chiefs team since 2022. But what did the defense do the last time around, Rico? They held the Chiefs to 21, and that was really the difference. Can the Bills do that again? Because we know the Bills, in all likelihood, unless they have a really bad day offensively, Rico, and I'm talking turning it over uncharacteristically, getting sacked.
Right.
Do you imagine this team not scoring at least 24 points minimum? Like, it's really hard to fathom the Bills not being able to do that unless they have a terrible game. So you got to think back to the defensive side of things. I've said this all week, I think the team that reaches 27 wins it. And I like the Bills' ability to keep the Chiefs under 27. I love the Bills' ability to score 27. So, man, I don't know, Rico. I like you said earlier, it feels like it's time. Is it going to be time? That's what we're about to find out.
I think it is time. It's time. Everybody knows it's time. And when, I'll use this, man. Like, you're about to play sports against someone, play video games against someone. And when that person starts to say, hey, man, like, after this game, like, win or lose, like, I'm going to go home because I'm tired or whatever. Because, like, no. Every time that you play, you ready to talk all your ish. And all of a sudden you're tired after this one game. That's what it felt when Nick Wright keeps saying he's been awfully nice about Josh Allen and these Bills. And he hasn't been as critical because he understands. He understands it. He gets it. So it's one of those situations where there's a quiet confidence. I have a quiet confidence. And we match up better. And this is what I wanted to get to. The Ravens gave me more worry based on the matchup. I understood. I was still confident in winning that game. I thought we were going to win it no matter what. And we won by the skin of our teeth, but win is a win. But I felt the matchup was better. I think we're matched up well with this team. And it's just a matter of execution. We've got to execute. We've got to get things done. And we got to go from there. And I look at Josh. I look at his defense. But there's a part that did not take place the last time we placed the Chiefs. And that's our run game. We did not run the ball as well as we could have. I mean, James Cook had 20 yards rushing. They ain't no way we're about to have James Cook have less than 20 yards rushing. We've got to establish ourselves in the run game and balance this game out. And this is where James Cook, I look to have him have a huge game today and set the tone. It's a tone-setting type of game today. Somebody's got to set the tone. I think James Cook will get the ball rolling, set the tone, and then it's on from there. We're one game away, ladies and gentlemen. One game away, right? One quarter away. Second quarter, we got to keep it going. We just got to remember what's going on. My man Pierre says, yo, remember, Bills, they weren't built to win the division. It was built to beat one team, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. And they're right. We knew that the division was going to come one way or another. But when it comes to when push comes to shove, you got to take KC down. You got to take KC down. We're built for it. We brought in Von Miller, 120 mil over 6 years. This is the game. This is the day that you got to cash in on everything that we put into you. This is the day you got to come in. You're a closer. Close this guy out. Close these boys out. Let's ready to roll, man. I'm excited. Very excited. Let's roll.
You know, we talked about it throughout the week here, how the Chiefs' offense wasn't great last week by any means. The Houston Texans' offense was abysmal. Their special teams was abysmal. Their offensive line was abysmal. And, you know, the 9-point margin of victory, or what was it? It was, 9-point margin of victory. I mean, at times it felt like it wasn't a blowout, even though you could argue it might have been towards the end. There were times I think you could make a legitimate argument the Houston Texans were outplaying them. But I look back at the numbers. And the Chiefs had 212 total yards of offense in that game, Rico. The Texans had 336. It all came down to the Texans getting into the Chiefs' territory and not being able to convert. Whether their offensive line would implode, there'd be a penalty, a missed kick. I go back to the Bills-Chiefs game week 11.
Talk to me.
Very similar stat line for the Chiefs' offense. 259 yards of total offense. So they had roughly 40 yards more in that game against the Bills than last week against Houston. They had 78 rushing yards in that game, and they held Mahomes to 181 yards. The difference was the Bills' offense. And I think right now we can make the same argument we would make back then. The Bills' offense is significantly better than the Houston Texans' offense. I like the Bills' ability to keep the Chiefs around those same numbers because I just don't know the Chiefs throughout the year here. They really haven't put up those numbers against anybody. Outside of the Pittsburgh Steelers on Christmas Day, I mean, who have the Chiefs really put the throttle down on that you remember off the top of your head? The Bills offensively have consistently, and it'd be different if it was a one-off here and there, consistently, Rico, I'm talking nearly every single week here, have put up near 30 points in around 400 or 350 to 400 total yards. So that to me is the big difference here. We look back at the Houston game last week. We look back at the Bills game week 11. Both the numbers for the Chiefs in those two games awfully similar. The difference in the outcome was one offense was way better. They took advantage of their opportunities. That's why the Bills gave the Chiefs their only legitimate loss of the season.
Isn't it crazy how it comes full circle?
Yeah.
Right? The one loss, legitimate loss that the Chiefs, took the loss from is the Bills. And the Bills facing the Chiefs is poetic. It's like we knew we needed to face you. We knew we were going to see you again. And this is for all the marbles, so should they say. So this is it. You got to get it done. You got to make sure you execute and do what needs to be done. Now, let's flip it a little bit. You're looking at Kansas City, and you know what's at stake. They know what's at stake. What do we have to do to mitigate, slow down KC? What is it that we must do defensively, offensively to get the advantage from our side?
So I saw a stat earlier, and I think that this really could be. There's a few individual factors that I think play a huge role in this game. One of them, I think, is the turnover battle because these two teams have been so great at protecting the ball that I think if one team does turn it over, you could see a significant difference. But one of the big differences between these two offenses right now, Rico, the Bills have one of the best red zone offenses in terms of putting up touchdowns in the NFL. The Chiefs, oddly enough, have one of the worst. And I think that could come down to being a huge difference in this game. The Chiefs are obviously going to move the ball at some point throughout the game. How consistently throughout the game, we won't know. But we know at some point they're going to have theirs on offense, whether it's one or two drives or the whole game. I mean, we know at some point it's going to happen. When they do get that stride going and they get the ball down the field and they get it into the 20-yard line, can you hold them to a field goal? Or if they'd opt to go for it on fourth and risk it, can you stop them and keep them out of the end zone? The Bills have been able to convert those moments into touchdowns. The Chiefs have struggled with that. And I think that with a game featuring two extremely similar teams with a very small margin between the two that's going to separate the outcome of this one, touchdown to field goal ratio, I think in the red zone could be huge. Throughout the year, the Bills have been significantly better. So can the Bills keep KC out of the end zone once they get into the red zone? Can the Bills get into the end zone once they get into the red zone? I think that could really be a major difference in the game, Rico.
It does. And getting into the red zone is one thing. Finishing in the red zone is another. And how you finish in the red zone, whether you're on offense or defense, is through the trenches. And that's where this is all going to stem from. You can funnel everything down to the trenches. And right now, I feel so confident in the Bills' trench, especially offensive line, right? Spencer Brown is playing at a level that we haven't seen him play before. Deion Dawkins is playing at a Pro Bowl level, damn near all pro. Connor McGovern has surprised us all and has maintained his ability to be stable in the middle of that offense. And you've got the second-year player doing well. This offensive line is going to be telling on how we handle things today. But we can always talk about the trenches all day. But one thing that is massive that we haven't really touched on is how rookie Cole Bishop is going to fare today. Because Cole Bishop gets the start. Taylor Rapp obviously sitting out. Do you have worry with the rookie getting playtime in such a big time scale? This is the AFC Championship game. Does Andy Reid, focus on him and attack him? Or is Cole Bishop going to cut his teeth and say, nah, I belong on this team. I belong on this stage. What say you on Cole Bishop? Do you feel confident in what Cole Bishop is going to bring to this defense alongside DeMar Hamlin, Russell Douglas, and the whole crew?
I do, oddly. I think it's because of who he's surrounded by out there. He's got to be confident walking out there with Bernard and Milano in front of him. He's got to be confident having Johnson out there with him and Douglas and a healthy Benford here. You got to be feeling good. Now, last year, you go into that spot, right? If you go into that spot last year with half the defense depleted, you're feeling way different about it. But that's why I feel different about this game. I would love to have Rapp in that game. I'm devastated about it for him and just the fact that we get this far and he makes a huge play last week and you don't have him. But we talked about it earlier in the week. I think if there's one area on the defense that you may be able to afford getting away with a little less depth at than other games, it would be the secondary in this particular game.
I agree.
I think that who he's out there with, I think that that's going to help. Now, listen, there are going to be probably moments where you're sitting there thinking, man, but I don't particularly know. I don't quite see what is going to be a major game breaker set up by Andy Reid on him and him alone. I know that Sean McDermott defensively is not going to allow him to get on an island when he shouldn't be. I trust McDermott's ability because we've praised him for it all year long. 100%. McDermott's ability to get the most out of guys and plug and play guys, that has a lot to do with what he's setting them up to succeed in. And I think as great as Andy Reid is, of course, at scheming up an offense and taking the most out of things, as Philadelphia runs for a 70-yard touchdown, they have doubled up Washington.
Are you kidding me? They ran one for another one?
Well, he slid before the goal line, but they're going to put up 55 points on the Washington line. My God. But anyway, as great as Andy Reid is at scheming up an offense, right? I trust Sean McDermott to scheme up a defense that is capable of putting his rookie in the best spots possible. Maybe there's one or two times where they might get slightly burned on it, but I don't find it to be that big of an issue because McDermott has all of his standard pieces to work with here, except for Rapp. And I look at him to be able to find ways to utilize Rapp in the most productive way and not put him in harmful situations. That's just kind of how I see it. But how about you?
I see it very similar to me. I think that he's surrounded by such big pieces that it's a team. It's the way this. When you're coached by McDermott, you're coached by Babbage. That's the position I'm least worried about. I mean, he can plug and play anybody. But Jamarcus Ingram, for crying out loud, gets in week 2, week 3, pick 6, takes one back to the house. You're never worried. Be where you're supposed to be. Away we go. By the way, the closer we get to the game, the more nervous I'm freaking starting to get. So I feel good. Now, flip to the offensive side of the ball. Khalil Shakir obviously is going to be matched up against Trent McDuffie. Probably a lot of the game, especially because he plays a lot more into the slot. Who the heck is going to step up for Josh? Because that's what I feel needs to happen. Somebody has to say, I'm ready to be your guy if they decide to take out Trent McDuffie decides to take out this guy right here? Is it going to be Amari Cooper? Is it Mac Hollins? Is it Curtis Samuel? Do you see anybody stepping out, or is this going to be a collective group where everyone gets to eat today, but with their eating, they eat into the defensive, defensive zone of obviously Kansas City to get ourselves closer to the end zone? Anybody stand out to you on the offensive side? Because I feel somebody has to step up. Is this the Amari Cooper game, or somebody else going to step up?
I still feel like it's everybody eats. I think the running game is going to be better than last time. Like you mentioned, James Cook, only 20 yards. I can't imagine that happens again here. Mm-hmm. But I look for this to be a Dalton Kincaid game. We talked about it on Friday. The Kansas City Chiefs are one of the worst teams in the league at defending the tight end. This seems like a moment to utilize a first-round draft pick in Dalton Kincaid to an extent in which you look at it and say that's what you drafted him for. This is what I see for him today, Rico. I see him in a spot where he's set up to succeed. I see the Bills looking to make him an impact in this game. And I think that really could be one of those guys offensively that you look back at this game and say, man, if it wasn't for Kincaid, we could be looking at a different outcome here. The Bills need to have one of those guys do it outside of Shakir on a weekly basis in a game like this. I mean, honest to God, I sit here and I say that, but maybe they don't. I don't know. They've been so good at not doing that. But if I'm looking at this game and how it sets up, it just feels like it's set up for Kincaid to have a day. They just got to feed him more. I mean, they don't target him nearly as much as I think that they should at times. This game here seems like it's set up to be able to get him those targets and hopefully capitalize on them.
I'm with you, man. So the trenches, defensively, offensively, we talked about it all. Listen, we're a few minutes away from giving it up to my man P Money so we can take over. Listen, we're close to the game, man. Hot takes, bold takes, score predictions. This is what it comes down to, folks, in the chat. Let us know what your score predictions are. Let us know what your hot take is and your bold prediction. But I'm just going to leave the floor to you. Do you have anything? Give me your score prediction and give me a bold hot take, what you think can take place, or maybe there isn't any. Maybe it's just a beat 'em up, bruised up game where it comes down to it. It's down to maybe a point, 2 points, 3 points. Maybe Vegas is right. It's down to a point. Who knows? What do you see?
28-25 Bills win. Tyler Bass walk-off field goal as time expires to win the game for the Buffalo Bills. That's my bold take. I think it comes down to the final play. I think Tyler Bass avenges last year. I think he nails it. I think the mother effing Bills go to the mother effing Super Bowl in a couple of weeks to take on those Eagles. I'm talking fast because we got to get off, and I want to get to your guys' super chats, but that's my bold take. That's my prediction, and damn it, do I hope it comes true. Jesse Snow coming in. Love you, brothers. He says, let's get these Chiefs. Let's go, Buffalo. Any updates on Benford? Benford's good to go. Rico's good to go. Bot's good to go. Jesse, you're good to go. The whole chat's good to go. These Bills are good to go, baby. We cannot wait. Kickoff in 10 minutes. Super Lancer coming in. Rico and Bot, we slaying the dragon tonight. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. We're talking Shrek, OG Shrek style, tying the giant chain around. Remember the dragon's trying to leave the castle. And Donkey, they finally get over the bridge, and the dragon gets stuck on the chain. That's happening tonight. Our main man, Matty DeVideo. Rico, Bot, it's time to fight like mad dogs tonight, and I am all in for it. Go Bills. Josh Allen for MVP, and let's have James Cook. Woo! Give the bell for Matthew DeVideo. I think that's what he took that woo for. Danny Brown, is it weird I feel more confident in this game than I did last week? Also, hot take, Cooper has 2 TDs this game. Now, that's a hot take I can get on board with right there, Rico.
I can get on board. Listen, I'm going to be quick here. Score prediction. I think we do hit over 30. I think the game just kind of runs away a little bit. Bills 31. And I'm going to have some respect for these Kansas City Chiefs, 31-27 Bills. And it's just going to be one of those games where we just got to handle our business, do what we need to do. And the best team prevails at the end of the day. But it comes down to the trenches. I need my dogs. Bold prediction. Von Miller, player of the game, because he makes the play of the game. And it becomes him that gets us over the edge. Somebody was trying to get on my case and saying, hey, man, Von Miller's he's over the hill. You see his numbers? Listen, it's not about his numbers. It's about what he does today, tonight. Get me that football, Von Miller, and disrupt the whole entire game. Be the game wrecker, because they see you do something, and then everybody's going to try to get in there and eat themselves. Not only the offense eats, everybody's going to eat on that defense. Let's go, Buffalo. KC, we got to take him down.
Hit that bell for yourself real quick. Hit that bell for yourself real quick. Closing us out. He says sports curses are generally broken, taking the hardest path Philly's scary, but
Love that.
so was Baltimore. Let's win this game tonight and go to the show. Dan, you couldn't have said it better. The show is on the line, but tonight you got to capitalize in the show that we have unfolding in front of our very eyes. 9 minutes from now, we cannot wait to join you post game to hopefully talk about the Buffalo Bills heading to the Super Bowl for the first time since 1990. What is it, 3? Is that what it would be?
94 season, man. Listen,
Listen,
Eagles are going to the Super Bowl. Let's join the Eagles.
Yep.
Let's join the Eagles. It's going to be Philly, Buffalo. That's your Super Bowl, baby. We got to get it done. We can't let
Fingers crossed. Oh, my God.
Kansas City do it, man. We got to take care of business.
Listen, folks,
sign us out, baby. Let's go.
we cannot wait to see you in a little bit, but enjoy the game. Try not to be too stressed. Enjoy the moment. We will see you shortly after the game ends. We cannot wait to see you then. But until then, enjoy the game. Much love as always. And go Bills.
Go Bills, baby.